'Tis the season for consumerism here in the United States. That means it's Black Friday time, and typically that means that Best Buy offer some pretty good prices on their hard drives. So the question is, to shuck or not to shuck, I suppose. And for me, the answer has always been to try and buy a hard drive or two every year. I've got about 10 in my server downstairs in the basement. And for me, having the ability to replace 1 or 2 drives a year means that none of those drives are ever more than sort of 5 years old, give or take. And then once those drives sort of cycle out of that 4 or 5 year range, I then put them in my backup servers either here in my house, or I send them over the pond to England to go and serve duty as an off-site backup hard drive in a foreign country. So this is a 20 terabyte Easystore drive, which came from Best Buy, and the man in brown shorts just dropped this off for me yesterday. This cost me about $250 delivered. I always like to try and aim for that $200 price point, but I am a sucker, for some reason, for 20 terabyte drives. Don't ask me why. Now, all of this stuff that's in the box, the power adapter and all that kind of stuff, like typically, I suppose it's good practice to actually power on the drive before you shuck it. I'm getting a bit lazy in my old age, and I'm not going to do that. So I'm literally just going to shuck the hard drive on camera and show you how easy it is. You really don't need much in the way of tools. I have a little flathead screwdriver here, which goes in between the casing, a T8 screwdriver, and a Phillips. I've also got my LTT, just in case, and a knife too, again, just in case. So it really is quite a straightforward process and should only take you a couple of minutes. And you want to start by just sort of getting in the corners here and jimmying and trying to break these clips, really. It's not difficult, just, you know, requires a bit more force than you might be comfortable with. Now, one thing to note is you can see kind of inside here that the hard drive occupies, you know, it's one way up, and you can see the silver side up here. So I know that this side is where the hard drive is. So I'm going to be a little more careful when I'm sort of wriggling my screwdriver in here, my flat blade in here, just trying to break these clips, to be honest. It always sounds really terrible, but I've done enough of these now that well, I was going to say, I don't care, but I clearly do. All right, so what about the warranty? We often see in the comments people saying, well, I'm shucking a hard drive, what about the warranty? And I have had to warranty a couple of these drives over the years. I've probably bought well over a dozen, maybe nearly 20 hard drives in the 5 years I've lived here. And the process of warrantying it is that you send this off to Western Digital, and because of the Magnuson-Moss Act here in the United States, they have to prove that shucking it was instrumental to its failure. And of course they can't do that, because why would taking something out of a shell that's got no airflow make it more susceptible to failure? So what they actually do is they send you back a retail packaged box. So I sent in a bare naked hard drive, and they sent me back one of these, a retail unit. All right, so you probably saw that was really easy to just sort of get the clips undone, and made a bit of a mess of my tabletop here, but I have inside a 20 terabyte Western Digital hard drive. Now, I had some questions about whether this is a 7200 RPM drive or a CMR or an SMR. I'm pretty sure that SMR stops at 8 terabytes, but don't quote me on that. Okay, so I've popped that out of the shell now. All of this stuff will never be seen again. What a waste. What an absolute waste. I always think that every time. Can't Western Digital just sell me a naked drive with a 2-year warranty for the same price without all of this plastic waste? I would very much like that. All right, now with all that stuff put away and taken care of, time to grab your T8 screwdriver. There are 4 little sort of rubber, I don't know, shock-proof, vibration-proof, like little mounting screws. Again, these just come out and will never be used again. And then it doesn't look like they've changed anything to do with the circuit board this year. I tend to make this a bit of an annual tradition. Some people are busy cooking turkeys. I'm busy shucking hard drives. And then there's a little Phillips screwdriver here, Phillips screw, just a crosshead. Again, that just comes out. Now this circuit board wants to go up because it's just a standard SATA connector in the end of the drive. So to pull this out, it's just a question of wriggling it out very carefully like that. and then this little sort of plastic piece will come out too. And there we have it, a 20 terabyte Western Digital hard drive ready to go into my server and be burnt in. Now, burning in is a process where I like to just zero out the drive fully to make sure that if it is a weakling, I can find that out now before I commit any data to it, versus in 6 weeks, 6 months time, where it's actually in a ZFS array doing stuff, and then I have to resilver it and wait for the warranty and yada, yada, yada. Much better to do it now and go through the retailer return process, although I do wonder, what would happen if I turned up at Best Buy with this? The warranty thing with Western Digital is one thing, but yeah, maybe Best Buy wouldn't be too pleased by this. So let's go downstairs and pop this in the basement server. Right, so this one's going to go into MorphNix, my primary media server. And as you can see, I've got one slot here ready to go to receive this drive. Currently, there are 3 18 terabyte hard drives, which actually were from Black Friday last year. I made a video about that. And one 20 terabyte drive, both in, well, I've got 3 18s and 120 set up in a pair of VDEV mirrors. So I'm wasting 2 terabytes currently. I'll be wasting a couple of terabytes of this drive until I get a couple more 20s, but I'm getting there. I'm slowly getting there. I've got a bit of work to do in that regard, but now it's time to just sort of put this drive into the caddy and sort of screw it in. This Rosewell case, it's just a case of it's just a case of 4 screws, and then you just slide it in. One 20 terabyte drive locked and loaded. Okay, time to put this into Morpheus, and then, well, the light came on, so that's a good sign, I suppose. I can hear it spinning up, so again, that's good. That means there's no shenanigans with the power that I need to do. Sometimes in the old days you had to tape certain pins on certain drives. Right, so all I've got left to do now is to verify that the drive actually showed up in the operating system. So I'm going to do a dmessage -W, which should show me that, yes, a brand new drive here of SDR of 20 terabytes has been detected. Okay, so SDR, so LS. So a quick ls dev disk by ID should show me that I've got one 20 terabyte drive here from Seagate and a second one, which is the brand new one, here from Western Digital. So if I do an fdisk, I need to be root, don't I? So I'll do an fdisk -l dev SDR. We should see that I've got this Western Digital 200 or 20 terabyte drive here. So all I want to do now is run a bad blocks script over this for the next week and a half, 2 weeks, to verify that it's running okay. So how do we do that? Over at blog.ktz.me, I have a page here called New Hard Drive Rituals, which actually I published originally on linuxserver.io when I was still over there. And essentially all I do is I use this script here to run bad blocks over the drive from a chap called Spearfoot. I've used this script successfully now for 6 years or so. It feels like a long time anyway, even though it says 4 years here. And so essentially what I'm going to do is just copy this disk burn-in script, make it executable with a chmod, and then you'll note that disk burn-in by itself doesn't really do a whole bunch. So to run in destructive mode, which is what we want to do, I just want to do this. So I'm going to load up tmux first of all, and then do disk burn-in.sh -f dev SDR. And that is that. That will now run for the next, like I say, 10 days or so, whilst it zeroes the hard drive a couple of times and does smart checks and all the rest of it. So this is where the fun begins, people. This is where we just end up playing the waiting game. So with this video, I wanted to set out to answer the question, is it still really a good idea to shuck a hard drive in 2024? Well, I can't find a 20 terabyte hard drive that's not in a silly plastic case for anywhere close to $250 this year. I think Western Digital are doing 22 terabyte hard drives for a pair for $700, but obviously that's an extra 100 for an extra 2 terabytes, which doesn't seem terribly worth it to me. So the short answer for me, at least, is yeah, unfortunately, shucking a drive is still probably the most economical way to go about this. Now, we did have a period briefly where 20 terabyte hard drives were roughly $250 without the plastic casing. But again, that was a Black Friday deal last year from Western Digital. So, you know, that's just the way it is, I guess. And I think for the foreseeable, at least, unfortunately, this is going to be a way for them to get rid of their B grade stock, although I've not actually had any issues with these drives worse than anything else. I've had 2 failures out of about the 2 dozen or so that I've purchased in the last 5 or 6 years, all pretty much from Best Buy, to be honest. So from my perspective, yes, it's still worth it, and even with the downsides of having to do the extra shucking, which is, as you saw on camera, 2 or 3 minutes extra work, it's still very much worth it in 2024. So with that, thank you very much for watching, and I've been Alex from KTZ Systems.